What is up, everyone? We're back. It's the 4th of July. 4th of July on a Friday. Stats. Gotta love it. Going into the weekend. Get the 3-day weekend. Started off early with a bunch of day baseball. We got 2 big slates today, but as we were talking beforehand, the real 4th of July slate is the day games going on in the afternoon when you got the grill going. You're at the pool. You're at the bar. Enjoying the 4th of July. How you doing, Stats? You excited for these 2 big slates today?
I'm always excited, man. It's always the anticipation is sometimes better than actually watching the game. So we always go into this with dreams of winning some big money. So hopefully we can pull it off today.
Yeah, some big team totals on the board today. We were discussing beforehand. Not great pitching across the board. I was, before we went live, I turned on the TV, and of course, Independence Day is on like 3 different channels. Is that a movie that, for me, every time I kind of click by it, I'll put it on for a couple minutes. I love the speech from the president and everything. Classic, I think.
It is one of the classics. It's funny you said I had helped an old neighbor of mine move, and she's an older woman, and a few weeks ago she had me over for dinner last night. So I was grilling, and she had Independence Day, of course, on the TV. There's no getting away from it.
Yeah.
That movie, even if you don't necessarily watch cable like I do, it just seems like it's going to hit you in the face.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, happy 4th to everyone in the chat.
What's another good 4th of July movie? Is there another one? I can't think of another good 4th of July movie.
I don't know. People in the chat, if there's another 4th of July movie that we're skipping over, toss it in there. Oh man, it just started pouring rain out here. Hopefully that's not a sign for later.
I believe it's supposed to clear up by game time over there. So
I've got the hat that I can usually only wear for one weekend out of year. Wearing that to the game today. Baseballism stuff. I love their stuff. It's so good.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we got 5 games. We can spend a little bit of time on each one here. I think we just kind of walk through it. We just got lineups for the Wrigley game. The later games, you don't have lineups yet, so we'll just go off the projected lineups that we have. A certain Philly stats. We got the Reds in town. Good pitching matchup here. Andrew Abbott, who has beaten projection systems and peripherals and estimators basically the entire year, has had an awesome season, holding a 1.79 ERA, a 1.01 WHIP, going up against my guy Jesus Luzardo, the Lizard King. Really good pitching matchup here, but pretty good hitting weather across the board on the entire slate. This slate in general, stats, I think, is extremely weak for pitching. I'll talk about my approach to this, but what do you think about the pitchers here? Really like Luzardo, and where are you at with Abbott?
I agree with you. The pitching on this slate is going to be it's going to be tough. There's not too many options. I have Luzardo as my top option for this entire slate. I think he's got the most upside. Probably he's going to project out in most projections, either 1 or 2 on the slate. But the K per inning here, 1.15 K per inning, is by far the best projected for any of these pitchers today. We've got his total in the strikeout market, 6.5, juice to the over, with 17.5 outs, juice to the over. So that's going to be the best on the day, where you've got Abbott only 4.5 Ks with the juice to the over, 17.5 is juice to the under on his pitching out. So I do like Luzardo quite a bit. He's going to be my number 1 option. I think it's basically 2 options, which I think you're going to agree with as we were talking. I think you got really 2 big pitching options today, and the rest is going to be bats. So I'll get into some of the leverage plays that I think with some of the other pitchers that may get some ownership, but not in this one. I think we're going to kind of lay off the bats here. It's only Philly bats, if anything. But I just think we've got better spots all around. I think you can maybe take a couple of pieces here. Philly, Schwarber, Turner. They're going to rate out decently. But the Cincinnati bats just don't rate well at all. So I'm going to pass on Cincinnati. I'll probably have just a handful of some Philly bats mixed in.
Yeah, Luzardo's been awesome all season. It was like 2 starts in a row where he was pretty clearly tipping pitches, and big league teams are going to take advantage of that, and they did. Outside of those 2 starts, he's been pretty much Cy Young worthy. So I think on a slate like this, we'll talk about it throughout, but I'm just kind of debating locking 2 guys and spreading out the bats on this slate. Luzardo would be one of those guys. I think I'm with you for sure. I think he's the best option on the entire board. The Reds on the road, a much worse offense, as we know. And then Abbott. Where are you on Abbott as far as playing him? I know we talked about playing a couple bats against him. He's a bit priced up for the K prop, but I mean, just looking for other options besides Wu and Luzardo. Are you going to have any Abbott here?
Yeah, I mean, in 150 builds, I think you have to. He's my fourth best option on the slate. I'm just nowhere near the confidence.
I just think there's like a massive break in tier between the top two guys and everyone else on the slate.
Yeah, I think so. And they're all, I mean, you put Abbott in there. Wu's 9,500. You got Luzardo at 9K, and then Abbott at 9,300. I mean, he's definitely the odd man out, right, in that scenario. But I think worthy of at least getting some interest in 150 builds. The 20 max, as you were talking about, I think perhaps maybe you get even tighter than that. Maybe if at most he would be my last guy in. I think in a 20 max scenario.
Yeah, I've been a hater of Abbott all season. He's kind of shoved it on me, but the underlying stuff still shows some reasons to be concerned. I mean, he's got the lowest ground ball rate on the entire slate. His xFIP is 409, which is worse than guys like Lucas Giolito, Adrian Hauser, Kumar Rocker. Like he's going to give up power, I think. So I'm going to be playing some one-off Phillies 2 and 3 mans. I'm not going to full stack against Abbott because he's kind of shown that he's not going to get blown up. But I do think that he's going to start to allow power. And in this park, I think that the Phillies bats could get him here. So I'm going to keep the 1, 2, and 3 mans in here for Philly, just because I do know that regression is coming based on the pitching profile that Abbott continues to, and he just continues to run hot. 240 batting average on balls in play against, 90% strand rate so far is by far the highest on this slate. It's the highest by 10% on this slate. So he's been sun running. I kind of want to be there when it goes bad. But I think right now, before he shows it, the best way to do that is just with one-offs and mini stacks against him. Any last thoughts on this game?
No, I think that's it. I agree with you. I like that theory with just kind of taking them one-offs and secondary stacks just because of the home run potential. We talk about that a lot, especially with the single. If you're just going with the 5-2-1, having looking for home run potential is key there. I typically don't like to just throw a cheap punt in there unless it's just so cheap that it makes a lot of fit. I kind of like having a guy like Schwarber who may not be as particularly owned on this slate as other slates. That's always a nice fit. I like that sometimes in my builds.
Yeah, and for a 5-game slate, Schwarber's gonna be super low owned, left on left. I believe Schwarber has the most home runs in baseball left on left. He's really good, especially power-wise, in the split against lefties. All right, let's go to the game that I will be heading to after we get off this show. Hopefully this rain stops. Looks like it will. We've got a good matchup here for me to see some fireworks. We got Colin Rea up against Miles Michaelis. Starting to come a part of the seams for Michaelis. He was kind of frustrating us a bit in the first month or so of the season. The last month, the numbers are deteriorating quickly, and when he gives it up, it's usually with power. He's given up 5 home runs in his last 4 starts. Are you playing either of these pitchers, or is it going to be bats only in Wrigley today?
Yeah, I gotta punt on these pitchers. I mean, this is 2 of the weakest strikeout pitchers on the slate. Rea, I mean, just a terrible K per. He's the worst K per inning pitcher here. We've got both of these guys in the betting markets and the prop markets at 3.5 on their strikeouts, 15.5 for both of these guys in their pitching outs, with Michaelis heavily juiced to the under. So really not a ton of interest on either one of these guys. Let's see, we're getting a little bit of what's the ownership here on Rea? So I think he's getting, because it's such a short slate. Yeah, 13-4. Okay, it's not nothing crazy, but I think I think it's not a huge leverage situation, but I think the St. Louis bats offer a lot of upside here for the fact that there's, like you said, there's not that many pitchers, and people are going to spread it out a little bit in these big GPPs. I think the St. Louis bats offer some pretty good upside for you, and obviously the Cub bats I like quite a bit. I just like this game overall, stacking it pretty heavily. Cubs get the nod, but I think St. Louis is going to give you some maybe some advantages with lower ownership and maybe a little bit of ownership against them on the pitching side.
Yeah, right now the Cubs project to be lower owned bats just because of the price tags, right? Like it's tough to get to multiple of the 2, 3, 4, Tucker, Suzuki, PCA. I was at the bar last night, Stats, and we were just kind of peeking at this slate, knowing the two pitchers that we wanted to play and just trying to find something that, allowed us to get to the heart of this Cubs order in this game. Right now, the winds are kind of blowing across. What I've looked at earlier today, I think the winds will be blowing out for this game, not super strong, but I think, 5 to 10 mile an hour winds blowing out. We haven't had that type of environment at Wrigley in a while. It should be high 80s, low 90s there, especially if this rain breaks through, the sun comes out. I think we're playing both sides bats here. We were talking beforehand. Cardinals have some injuries right now. Contreras, excuse me, and Arenado are kind of banged up, but they're both in the lineup today. Was kind of hoping they'd sit Stats so we get some 2K guys in there, but that's not the case. But overall, the Cardinals lineup is very cheap. So I think it's a game stack spot. I don't really have any issues with playing anyone on either side. Do you have some favorite bats from this game? We do have Carson Kelly in there for the Cubs, who's been hot. He's finally not priced at 5K. He's down at 3,500 and he's playable again. Any particular bats that stand out for you here?
Yeah, let me give you. So, I mean, obviously, it's always going to be Tucker and PCA, but on the St. Louis side, Burleson rates out my top bat there at 3,800. You got 3,600 for Gorman. Those are the two top St. Louis bats with Newmark. You got a bunch of guys under, still under 4K, so we can make it work. Yeah. Mason Wynn, 3,700 at short, and Contreras, of course. So those are the biggest bats that I like here. Some of the cheaper ones, not as much with Pages behind the plate and Scott, Donovan. Those guys are going to rate out a little bit lower. Arenado rates out the worst here for me at the 4,200. But I've got
this hasn't shown any pop this year.
No, that's the problem. Yeah, so we've got and I think you're paying a little too much here for Arenado, but I do like quite a bit Burleson and Gorman, especially up there in the St. Louis at that price, 3,800 and 3,600 for the St. Louis lineup. So I think this is one that we go pretty. We get in here on the bats. I think the potential for an explosive kind of game, weather's right. We could have a lot of upside in this one. So I didn't even notice the ownership as you were mentioning on the Cubs being underneath St. Louis, but it does make sense just because of that price tag. Yeah, which kind of puts me even more on these Cub bats. I like it even more. I'm just looking at it now. I'm glad I ran the tournament edge number, which takes into account the ownership. It's pretty high on most of these Cub batters. So you're getting it high on the St. Louis bats as well. So I think this is going to be a good one in tournaments, both sides, especially the Cub side now that we see the ownership might be a little lower. So while we're getting some savings on St. Louis, I kind of like getting over on these Cub bats today. Yeah,
same. And the back half of the order, the prices have come down Stats on these Cubs. We saw guys like Dansby and Kelly, who I mentioned, and Bush just kind of priced too high to play, but they're back down to a playable spot, especially if that wind's going to turn and blow out, which I do think is going to happen here. I know that checked our guy JBC's bets. If you're not a member of the bets side of RPS, I highly recommend it. It's a good way to sustain your bankroll as you fire your own stuff for fun. All right, let's go to New York. We got a classic Yankees Mets showdown this weekend up in New York. I know you're all too familiar with that, Stats.
Yes.
And we've got just a dynamite pitching matchup here, Stats. We got Marcus Stroman, the corpse of Marcus Stroman, going up against, I believe it's going to be Justin Hagenman for the Mets. The Mets kind of running out of arms here, Stats. I think this might be quasi bullpen game, I was going through, since there aren't any props on the Mets guy, he's basically been going through the order twice, pitching 4-ish innings here. Do you have any interest at these low prices of either of these arms, or is it going to be all bats again here?
Yeah, I think this one's going to be interesting because you're going to get ownership here on Hageman because of that price.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is one of the classic situations where if you get ownership, and it's not going to be tremendous, but on a slate like this where we don't have too many pitching options and you've got a dirt cheap pitcher like Hageman, I think it's just going to inflate his number. Sabres got him up at 21%. And if he's going to be
in that higher, honestly, just people want to jam bats.
Which to me means the Yankees are a huge play here for me tonight or this afternoon. I think it's we talk about it all the time, that leverage versus starting pitcher. Obviously, the Yankees that are going to register high on here because we've got a decent amount of ownership on the Mets pitcher. And it's a classic example of when you want to go against some ownership percentages, because is the player being rostered because of the talent, or is it just because of the price that they kind of make lineups a little easier to fit some of the more expensive guys? So I think this is a classic example of that, where we're going to get 20, and you're saying maybe we get 30%, or at least 25%, something like that. If you can get 25% of the field here, 30% of the field on Hageman, and then he blows up in a game where we've got a pretty high total. It's a pretty good Yankee total up over 5. I think it suppresses Yankee bat ownership, and so I think it works doubly here for us. So we could get lower Yankee ownership than we should, and also be able to touch up our opponents here if the Yankees go off, the ones who do roster Hageman. So I really like the Yankees as a great tournament type of option. It's Stanton. Listen, Stanton came through for me on Wednesday.
Finally, he got one.
I put him in the home run. It was my number 1 pick. I was ridiculed by DC. He goes, "Oh, nice first pick, and you have no chance of a home run." So, I had a
sometimes stuff like that has to happen to break through. You have to have a guy shitting on your pick for him to, get going.
I didn't rub it in because that's not the kind of guy I am. But
I actually tweeted last night because just been tilting how bad Mookie Betts has been for just a month now. And seemingly I play him every day just because the price is right. And I tweeted, I was like, I think it's almost time to give up on Mookie Betts. And he just blasts a home run like 5 minutes later.
I mean, it's, you go in a 2-week slump in baseball. It's not exactly unheard of, right? Yeah. But 2 weeks in DFS just weighs on you when you're paying $5K plus for a player, and that's what happens. So I'm of the, I bet on talent.
Yeah.
I know these guys are going to go in streaks. Trying to pick when that streak is going to end, whether it's good, bad, I think is a fool's game. So I just kind of stick to the numbers and when it's going to happen, I'm just going to get burned on certain players. I don't, that's just the way it is. Happens with my bets too. There's certain teams that are going to just burn me for an extended period of time in NFL, NBA, whatever it is. But, you have to kind of trust the numbers. So anyway, I do think, the Yankee bats have not been great the last few weeks. They burned a lot of people. That's keeping their ownership level subdued as well. I just think they're in a good spot here against the Mets, and what should be a pretty good hitting environment as well up there in
mid 80s at Citi Field today. Pretty good hitting weather around the league. Hageman, like you mentioned, not a guy being called up because he's a top arm that they want to get in the rotation. There's kind of out of arms. He's actually been pretty bad throughout his minor league career too. Stats like his estimators in the minors are 4.7, 5.1. At Double-A, if you have a expected ERA of over 5, this is a guy that we're going to want to attack in the major leagues. He has given up a bunch of power in the minors too, stats, because he's a pretty extreme fly ball pitcher, which is exactly what we want to see. A guy who's going to walk batters and give up fly balls against the Yankees in hot weather. I'm in on the Yankees. I hope the entire lobby thinks like Amazing Rob and that the Yankees and Mets have been bad. that doesn't mean that they're going to be bad today.
No, I mean, and you mentioned the walks here with talking about Hageman and Stroman just as bad. So I mean, you got a potential situation. I love targeting pitchers that give up a lot of walks.
Me too.
These are the two worst pitchers on the slate, or best, depending on how you're looking at it, for giving up walks. So these are guys that we really want to target. And if we're getting any ownership, like we discussed on Hageman, I just think the leverage is too good. So I like both sides of this game. I like the bats on both sides, Yankees especially, but Stanton, Judge, Jazz, Grisham, all at the top here, Bellinger, and then of course the big bats for the Mets, Soto, Lindor, Nemo, and Pete. Those are the guys I'm really locking in on.
Yeah. Last note on the Yankees bats: the Mets have used the good part of their bullpen the last couple of nights. So if it goes bad, this might just be a punt game where you see a long man in for 3 or 4 innings. If the Yankees run out early, you're not going to see Garrett, Stanek, or Diaz in this game. So, minor boost, something to keep in mind there. Yeah, I do like the Mets side too against Stroman. A bit more worried about the Yankees pen. I actually like the Yankees side more than the Mets side here, stats.
I agree.
And we're getting them lower owned. So I will have Mets. I will say the back half of the Mets lineup is going to work well, like with the Cubs stud, just because of the price tags. So, and it'll be lower owned. So I actually don't mind that, Cubs with back half Mets, something like that. All right, let's go to Minnesota, where it is in the mid 90s today. Stats. We don't normally see Target Field with hitting conditions like this. We got really good hitting conditions again, and 2 pitchers who have been giving it up. Zach Littell leading the league in home runs allowed. He's been pretty good over his last 2 starts, but he does give up power. And then Chris Paddock, who has just been a disaster. Talked about it, coming into the season. Guys with 2 pitches, really, really tough to sustain success in the major leagues unless you have a fastball like Spencer Strider. Are you into either of these pitchers at these price tags? What do you think about the arms here?
Yeah, I mean, as far as Paddock goes, there's just no interest. Just not enough strikeouts there, and in that environment today, we're expecting some runs. I'm not going to see it with Paddock. I think Littell a little bit. I've got him as the 3rd best option, but
context of the slate, 3rd best, right?
It's context of the slate, exactly. He's way behind. It's basically Luzardo and Wu, and then everyone else.
Yeah.
So while he's 3rd, he's right there with Abbott. It's basically 3A, 3B between the 2 of those guys, and I don't particularly like either one. I think this is another situation now. At least the projection wise, we're not projecting Liddell as high as Hageman was as far as ownership goes, but I think this is another situation with a really good leverage with the Minnesota bats. I pretty much like the bats on both sides, but I think Minnesota is your 2nd best option if you're looking for a leverage play against pitcher on this slate. I think the Yankees being number 1 and then Minnesota being number 2. Larnach, Castro, and then obviously Buxton up top, and Wallner at 3,400. I think he's batting 6th here today. Is pretty good price. Yeah, so I like that, and then you could get Bader down to 2,900 as well out in the outfield with Correa 3,200. I think the prices are pretty good.
Royce Lewis staring us down at 2,800 again. He's back.
Royce Lewis is one that, even at the 2,800, I'm not getting too excited about, but yeah, for the most part, most of these bats, basically Royce Lewis and your boy Ty France. I don't have a lot of love for here either.
When everyone was hurt and he was hitting 3rd, that was a little bit more enticing. I will say this entire lineup outside of Buxton is super, super cheap. They're going to also fit well with the Cubs and the Yankees. I like attacking Littell with 1, 2, and 3 mans because 1.98 home runs per 9 given up so far this season, the highest on the entire slate. And the Rays have been pretty much the best offense in baseball against right-handed pitching. Yeah, number 1 in weighted runs created plus over the last month against righties. You kind of see it when their lineup is fully healthy. They have Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau, Aranda from the left side. Our guy Ha-Sung Kim is back today. Love him. So there's just a lot of pop 1 through 6 in this lineup. You get the cheap catcher who has pop, Danny Jansen, who, when he has big games, it's, hitting bombs, which you can't say about a lot of catchers in this league. So, yeah, I'm again on both sides for bats. I'm not playing either pitcher here. I'm sure it's pretty obvious what I'm doing on this slate now. Just kind of spreading the bats out and see what fits with the Wu-Luzardo combo. Any favorite Rays bats here? They're priced up a bit because they have been so hot.
They are priced up, but I think you're right. I mean, the home run potential here is tremendous with Aranda, Caminero, Lau and Low. I think those are the 4 best options on the slate. There is a gap here, between those top guys. Yeah. So I think playing them in 2 and 3 man stacks may be a little bit better. Plus with the price, maybe they'll fit in with some of these cheaper stacks, which Minnesota would be one of them. I actually think on today, I like some of these games. I don't normally really care about game stacking. I think you could actually consider it here with some of the environments if the weather is right.
Right.
The ball's just taking off. Maybe, if you're hand building and playing some 20-mans and, kind of put some of these teams playing against each other together today, just on the chance that, the ball's just flying at that particular ball.
It could definitely happen here. I just updated the weather at Target Field. First pitch, 97 degrees now, with 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left field. So bump to the right-handed bat's going to fly out to left here with 2 pitchers that give it up. So, yeah, this is a great spot.
Everyone talks about, I don't know how do you deal with the summers in Florida and everything, but there is nothing hotter than summers up by where you are and, St. Louis and Minnesota. It's brief, but man, when it gets hot up there, it's worse than down here.
When you don't get like the breeze off the water
exactly
to help, it's tough. Yeah, what it is right now is perfect. It's 79, the sun's coming out. That's kind of where I like to live, not the 97 that we're going to see at Target Field today.
I've been to Wrigley where they've had to hose us down in the bleachers. 105, just get the hose out and and it's brutal.
Yeah, I've been there too. It's you just have to hit the bar a little extra that day.
Yeah,
some of those days it's almost too hot to even get drunk. But
you just sweat it. You just sweat it all out.
Yeah, you just sweat it.
You never pee, nothing.
Right. All right, let's wrap up this slate with the 5th game out in Seattle. Don't believe we have either lineup here. It's a 4:10 Eastern, so a little early for lineups. So we got Bailey Falter for the Pirates going up against Brian Wu for Seattle, who got bumped back a day. Was really interested in him yesterday, and now he gets an even better spot. He doesn't have to face the low strikeout Royals. Instead, he gets the high strikeout Pirates at home here. They even bumped his price down a little bit. He's 9,500. What are your thoughts on Wu here, and any interest in Falter on this slate?
Well, the Falter I can answer really quickly, and there's just no interest there. 3.5 strikeouts is his.
There's just such a huge gap between these guys and the rest of the slate.
It is, yeah. I mean, Wu's obviously, we've been discussing it. This is my, kind of 1A, 1B. It's Luzardo and Wu for me. So I'm going to be pretty heavy on Wu. I agree with you there. You were talking about maybe just locking in those 2 guys in your 20 max builds. I don't think that's a terrible option. I mean, Wu 6.5. Both of those guys were 6.5 Ks. No one else is close. Now he is juiced to the under, but 18.5 outs, which is juiced to the under, but that's also the highest out projection.
Yeah, Wu has completed 6 innings in all 16 starts this season.
That's a good stat. Yeah, there's not too many guys, and you're in a great ballpark here, right? Yeah. We're in the right park of all the parks today for pitching. So, yeah, I just think this is a really this is a good spot for Wu. He'll be heavy in my lineups as well. I just don't like anything. Obviously, I don't like the Pittsburgh side of the bats. I really don't want to touch the Seattle bats either. Just considering the other games that we've got on this slate, I think we've got much better options than Seattle.
Yeah, so I'll be locking Wu and Luzardo. No surprise there. The Pirates have been hot as a team, but it's not because of their bats. Their pitching has been really good, which is what's carried them through this kind of hot stretch for them over the last month. Just to kind of hammer that point home, against right-handed pitching, 25th in weighted runs created plus, 29th in ISO. This lineup just doesn't have pop. I think Wu's going to cruise here. I actually, stats kind of like his out prop over. We're getting plus money over 18.5. I think you could work into the 7th here pretty cleanly. I'm going to put that in after the show. I'm not going to be stacking Seattle here stats, but I think we can pick off cheap bats that'll fit. That's just kind of what I'm looking for today is, since I'm paying up twice for pitcher, just guys that'll fit my lineups. And against lefties, we've seen Solano hit cleanup against lefties. He's 2,500 at first base, stuff like that. I think is kind of how I'll play Seattle. I'm not going to be stacking them, but if pieces fit within lineups that are cheap, I don't mind doing that on a smaller slate. So
yeah, I'm okay with a couple of pieces. I think for me, and we'll see if he's in there. I think if Mitch Garver is playing at 3K, I don't mind that.
Garver should start against the lefty here.
He should start, yeah. So if he's in there, I don't mind that one at 3K. There's not a ton, I mean, Camporeale-USA's always great, but you're paying 6,200.
Yeah, Dylan Moore will start against the lefty in the 3Ks. He has some power and speed. I don't love it like you said, but it's just going to be pieces that kind of fit with the top bats is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I mean Polanco at second base is okay. Yeah. These aren't great plays for me. I would say Garver would be my best, my favorite play there at catcher if you want to, if you have that room.
I agree with you. All right, that's all 5 games. Let's do a quick overview, and then we'll take a 3-minute peek at the slate later. We don't have any lineups or anything that we've done on that, but we'll just take a quick peek. But for this slate stats, is there anyone? We talked about Wu and Luzardo. If you had to go past those guys, who are the who's an arm or two that you would include if you're MMEing?
Yeah, I mean it's brutal, like we said, but and these are guys that I'm targeting against, but those would be the next guys would be Littell and Abbott, and then if you're gonna play, maybe you're gonna play some Hageman just to get some super expensive bats in there, maybe something like that. If you're gonna play I can never play. I can't play Rhea like from that point down. But I think Hageman, because I'm like, maybe there's a scenario where you play like a Hageman Rhea lineup. I just can't. I can't get there.
I think you want at least one of Wu or Luzardo in every lineup. I don't really see a combo that doesn't have at least one of these guys being in the winner today.
I would. Yeah, I mean, if I had to put a number,
I don't usually make rules like that for baseball, but I might do that today.
Give me the probability that one of those guys is in the winner. At least
90%, 80%.
I was at 80. Yeah, I was at 80 for at least one being in there. I think that's probably about right. So
I think Littell is the best just because if he doesn't give up the bombs, he can get through. He has a good outs prop at least. All right, favorite stacks. Let's do real quick. We'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the just for the leverage, I like the Yankee stacks today. I think those are going to be really good. And then I think overall, I think the Cubs score the most, but I think the Yankees give us the best probability to win a GPP. So those are my two favorites.
I think I'm contractually obligated to say the game stack at Wrigley since I'm heading there, but also like Yankees with you, and then the power bats in Target Field with that weather. We will skip the dong draft to take a quick look at the 7:00 slate. We got an 8-gamer later. I took a quick look earlier stats, and the pitching looked kind of tough there too. We got Strider up top at 10K. He's at home against Baltimore, who's been scuffling a bit, but obviously a dangerous lineup when things are clicking. That's a bit uncomfortable. We got Chris Bubich at 9,800 in Arizona. I will say the current makeup of the Arizona lineup doesn't look great against lefties. We saw it last night with Robbie Ray had an excellent outing out there in Arizona. Just with guys like Carroll and Naylor and a couple of these guys hurt, the back half of that Arizona lineup is really weak. So I don't mind that. The 7 and 8K range is kind of meh. Arizona is throwing Erod against Kansas City. Not a high strikeout matchup, but decent price tag there. Chuck Morton goes back to Atlanta. That's kind of fun. But I think he's battling through some injuries. he had mentioned, I can't remember what it was, but not 100% 42-year-old or whatever Charlie Morton is, doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. And then you got some cheap arms. Casparius for the Dodgers is a really talented arm. I'm glad that they're letting him start. Hopefully they let him start. It might be an opener here, though, so I'd pay attention to that. And then Sandy Alcantara is going to probably be popular just because he's down at 7K against a Milwaukee team that's kind of struggled a bit of late. Have you taken a look yet at any of the pitching for the night slate? Do you have any early takes?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it a little bit here. Strider is by far the best option at 10K, is the highest priced as well. I think then it's Eduardo Rodriguez, but there's a pretty good drop off once you get down past Strider. I think Bubic and Rodriguez are your two next best options.
It's another tough pitching slate.
It's really, it's tough in the fact, there's just not that many good pitchers, which again, you're going to be able to look at some of these stacks and we could probably target some of the stacks where these pitchers are going to be more owned for the fact that they're just on a bad pitching slate than talent may dictate. So I kind of like targeting those pitchers, but I think and I don't know, we'll look at it as it gets closer, but we might have to just lock Strider in because I think he's that much better.
Strider's got over 7.5 minus 125 K prop. I'm not seeing anyone else over 5.
No. I mean, we're projecting like 1.3 Ks per inning, and I don't think anyone else on the slate is projected for more than a K per inning. So it's it's a big difference. It's a big drop off from the next guy. You mentioned Morton, and it's just he's just not going to go deep in the game, and he may be dealing with something. I think that's the same problem here you have with Casparius. Just I don't expect many innings.
I also think they might open with Ohtani again in front of him, which would kill any interest in him.
Yes, for sure. So I would get away from him there. I think Alcantara.
I think he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine here. I've got him as like the fifth pitcher on the slate. So if you're looking for the savings, I think you could go ahead and you could play him. But I would say, not great K numbers that we're projecting out for Alcantara, but there's really not that many great K pitchers on the slate outside of Strider, so I don't actually mind it. But I think if you're going to go sub 8K, I think it's Eduardo Rodriguez for me, and then Alcantara.
And I just noticed we have the matchup of the day: the White Sox in Coors.
It's this is interesting.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the White Sox. I actually in this game, I think Colorado bats are maybe a little underowned. We'll see.
Yeah, we got Hauser starting for the White Sox, who can definitely cough it up.
I think I almost like the Colorado side more than I'm going to like the White Sox side. I think people will play. Obviously, it's Colorado. They're going to play both sides of this game, but I think we may get some value here on the Colorado bats more so than the White Sox. I think I'm going to go a little heavier on the Rocky bats.
Yeah, agreed. So my spots are there. I really like both sides in the Sacramento game. We got Verlander going to Sacramento, where it's going to be hot against JP Sears, who, as we know, will give up power, especially in that park. So I think that's a sneaky pivot to the Coors game. And then I'm seeing Eric Lauer being pretty popular for Toronto, at least early. Might go right back to those Angels bats who were good to his last night's stats.
Yeah, you nailed it. Everyone jokes I was like the Angel bats, but I love him in this situation with that Lauer ownership that I saw. I think this is one of the better leverage plays. Probably the best leverage play tonight would be the Angels for me. I totally agree with you there.
Yep. All right, so that's a little quick overview on the slate. If you remember, we'll have a playbook up. AP is on the sticks for the playbook, taking over for me since I'll be at the game. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning on the 4th of July. Stats, you have a great day, whatever you get into. I know it's kind of TBD right now, but I'm sure it'll be fun. There'll
be alcohol involved, and hopefully we keep all our fingers and toes after blowing off some fireworks.
Hopefully we see some dongs at Wrigley, hit some overs today. I already saw JBC's bets and a lot of overs in there, which would be nice today. So thanks for hanging out. Everyone have a great 4th. Be safe and have fun. We'll see you guys tomorrow.